Brad Pitt on the red carpet in New York. F1 movie is being launched.
Yeah, brushing shoulders with some of the best, boy.
Combs. A witness going by the name Jane, back on the witness stand today, and now we are in the 5th week of this trial.
A juror in the Sean Diddy Combs trial has been dismissed today over concerns about where he actually lives. CBS News legal reporter.
The courtroom stood frozen as an unexpected. Figure stepped through the grand wooden doors, none other than Brad Pitt himself. Murmurs swept the room like a rising storm, eyes wide in disbelief at the Hollywood icon's sudden appearance in this scandalous trial. Why was he here? And what secrets was he prepared to reveal that could shake the foundation of Diddy's defense? The silence was thick, every heartbeat waiting for Pitt's words to break the tension. Even the judge leaned forward, sensing the gravity of this moment. As Brad approached the stand with calm determination, the world held its breath.
Brad Pitt. He's amazing.
That's a handsome man right there. Our crowd.
Something monumental was about to be exposed. A courtroom, stunned by an unexpected turn. The courtroom was already filled with tension on day 18 of the much-publicized trial involving Sean Diddy Combs, but no one expected what happened next. As the murmurs of the crowd quieted, the door at the back of the room opened, and in walked none other than Brad Pitt. Yes, Hollywood's golden boy, dressed in a sharp, dark suit, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. The room gasped as cameras clicked furiously, trying to capture this shocking moment. Why was Brad Pitt here? What connection could he possibly have to this scandalous trial that already had the media world buzzing for weeks? People whispered in disbelief. The air was thick with suspense. Brad Pitt moved confidently to the witness stand. His name echoed through the court as the clerk announced him. The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. The jury leaned in. Reporters scribbled notes in a hurry. Then came the words that would change everything. Brad Pitt was here to testify against Diddy. Suddenly, the trial had taken a shocking twist that no one saw coming. What secrets did Brad hold? What truth was about to unfold? The tension in the room reached breaking point as everyone waited, breath held, for Brad Pitt to speak. Little did they know that what he was about to reveal would shake not only the courtroom, but the entire entertainment world. This was more than a celebrity trial now. It had become a historic moment of truth and revelation. Brad Pitt breaks his silence. As Brad Pitt settled into the witness chair, the courtroom fell into a hushed silence. All eyes were locked on him. For years, Brad had carefully kept his personal dealings private, away from the harsh lights of scandal and gossip. But today, that changed. With the world watching and the stakes higher than ever, Brad cleared his throat and began to speak. His voice, calm but steady, carried a weight that filled the room. He spoke of past encounters with Diddy, encounters no one outside Hollywood's inner circle had ever heard about. Brad confessed he had seen sides of Diddy that shocked even him.
Diddy Combs. On Monday, the jury was shown explicit video clips of the freak-offs.
He described private parties, disturbing conversations, and behind-the-scenes dealings that painted a very different picture of the man known to millions as a music mogul. The jury listened in disbelief as Brad shared details of strange demands, unspoken threats, and an atmosphere of fear around Diddy's inner world. His words weren't wild accusations. They were calm, measured facts from a man who had nothing to gain but the truth to share. Gasps filled the room as he described incidents involving other A-list celebrities, hinting that Diddy's web of influence reached far wider than anyone imagined. The judge glanced nervously at the defense team, whose faces had turned pale. What Brad Pitt revealed in those moments set the courtroom ablaze with shock. Reporters frantically sent updates. Social media exploded. The trial had taken a turn no one, not even Diddy himself, could have prepared for. Secrets from the shadows revealed. As Brad Pitt continued his gripping testimony, the court remained frozen in disbelief. Every word he spoke peeled back the carefully maintained image of Diddy as a music icon. Brad recounted shocking private moments where he had witnessed Diddy's troubling behavior firsthand. These were not stories from tabloids or rumors spread in Hollywood circles. They were confessions from Brad's own experiences. He described parties that turned dark, filled with unsettling actions that left lasting impressions on him. The court listened as Brad detailed how Diddy's charm could quickly switch into manipulation and intimidation behind closed doors. He explained how he'd once tried to distance himself from these disturbing scenes, but found it impossible to escape entirely. Diddy's reach, Brad claimed, was long and deep within the entertainment world. The defense team fidgeted nervously, whispering hurriedly among themselves, while the prosecution's faces lit up with new confidence. Each revelation Brad made seemed to chip away at Diddy's carefully constructed defense. The jury exchanged glances. Some even looked visibly shaken by the celebrity's calm but damning words.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all yeah, no rules. Yeah, gloves off, anything goes.
I'm ready to go.
Best line wins.
What was it like to work?
This was no longer just a music mogul on trial. This was now a story of hidden power, silent threats, and secrets from the shadows finally coming into the light. Brad's testimony was becoming the centerpiece of a case that could change everything. Diddy's defense crumbles. As Brad Pitt's testimony unfolded, the once confident and composed defense team began to show cracks. Their smiles faded. Their eyes darted anxiously between the jury and the judge. Brad's revelations were not wild stories. They were facts, shared with quiet certainty that left no room for denial. Diddy, sitting stiffly beside his lawyers, avoided Brad's gaze, his jaw clenched tight. The court could feel the pressure building as Brad described business deals that hinted at shady dealings, backroom threats, and under-the-table arrangements that painted Diddy in a dark light. He spoke of witnesses too afraid to come forward, of friends warned to stay silent. The courtroom hung on every word as Brad described an atmosphere of control and fear that extended far beyond the music industry. The defense tried to object, but the judge overruled, allowing Brad to finish each damaging sentence. Whispers spread through the audience seats. Even seasoned reporters glanced at each other in shock. Social media outside the courtroom erupted with speculation and outrage. Was this the unraveling of one of hip-hop's biggest legends? Could Brad Pitt's testimony really bring down the empire Diddy had built over decades? With each word, the possibility seemed more real. Brad's calm voice struck hard, making the defense's argument seem flimsy and desperate. The walls around Diddy's defense were beginning to crumble, and everyone could feel it. The media frenzy ignites. As the court recessed for a short break, the media frenzy outside the building exploded. News reporters scrambled to update their broadcasts. Headlines flashed across TV screens and social media feeds. Brad Pitt's explosive testimony shocks court. Paparazzi swarmed the courthouse steps, hoping to catch a glimpse of Brad as he stepped outside. Commentators debated the impact of his words. Some called it the most shocking celebrity testimony of the decade. Across the city, phones buzzed with notifications. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Brad Pitt's name trended worldwide within minutes, overshadowing every other news story of the day. Meanwhile, back inside the courthouse, the jury returned to their seats, their faces pale and thoughtful.
Courthouse.
But this one has turned into a salacious soap opera of a case.
The prosecution team reviewed their notes with satisfied smiles, knowing they had been handed a gift that could tip the entire trial in their favor. Diddy sat silently, glancing nervously at his lawyers. His defense team huddled, clearly shaken, trying to plan their next move. The mood had shifted entirely. Brad's words had not only stunned the courtroom, they had ignited a media storm that was now sweeping the world. And as the cameras outside kept rolling, it became clear that this trial was no longer just about Diddy's future. It was about truth, power, and the crumbling of an empire in real time. Brad names other celebrities. As Brad Pitt resumed his seat on the witness stand, the courtroom held its breath. What he said next stunned everyone even more. With steady confidence, Brad began naming other celebrities who had been part of this hidden world. Famous faces, some sitting in the courtroom, some watching nervously from afar, were suddenly dragged into the spotlight. Brad's words revealed whispered alliances, secret deals, and quiet warnings exchanged among Hollywood's elite. He spoke of actors, musicians, and producers who knew of Diddy's dark dealings but chose silence over risk. The jury gasped as familiar names surfaced, making the trial even bigger than anyone had imagined. Reporters in the room typed furiously, breaking these revelations to the world within seconds. Social media erupted again. Fans debated in shock and disbelief. Could it be true? Had so many stars stayed quiet to protect their careers? Brad's courage in breaking this silent circle made him both a hero and a target. The courtroom was no longer about Diddy alone. It was about an entire network of power that had controlled Hollywood from the shadows. The judge leaned forward, listening closely. The defense team looked desperate, knowing that with each name spoken, their case weakened further. Brad Pitt's testimony was pulling apart a web of secrets long kept safe. Diddy's reaction speaks volumes. As Brad Pitt finished his latest shocking statement, the focus shifted to Diddy. All eyes turned to the music mogul, who sat frozen, his expression stiff and unreadable.
Diddy was off to do what he does best, offering his brand to the world.
But his tightly clenched jaw, the occasional twitch of his fingers, and the darting glances toward his lawyers told a deeper story. This was not the reaction of an innocent man, some observers whispered. Diddy's usual charm and confidence were gone, replaced by visible tension and fear. His lawyers leaned in, whispering urgently, but Diddy barely responded. The jury noticed. So did the press. Cameras captured every movement, broadcasting Diddy's discomfort to the world. Onlookers speculated, was Diddy cracking under the weight of Brad Pitt's testimony? Was his silence an admission of guilt, or was he simply trying to stay calm in a storm of accusations? His fans online began to argue fiercely, some defending him, others admitting doubt for the first time. Diddy's empire, built over decades of hits, fame, and fortune, now looked shaky. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Even the judge seemed unusually focused on Diddy's reaction, watching closely as the trial continued. It was clear to everyone. Brad Pitt's words had struck home, and Diddy's response, or lack of one, might be the most telling evidence of all. Shockwaves across Hollywood. As word of Brad Pitt's explosive testimony spread, Hollywood itself seemed to tremble. Agents, producers, and studio executives scrambled to check their connections, fearing they might be next in the spotlight. Celebrities whispered nervously in private messages and secret calls, wondering how far this scandal would reach. Those who had once partied with Diddy, who had done business with him or shared in his secrets, now faced the terrifying thought of public exposure. News outlets ran endless coverage, replaying Brad's words over and over. Headlines screamed about the fall of an empire. Late-night talk shows abandoned their jokes to cover the trial's latest bombshell. Even fans were divided, some shocked into silence, others furious that the truth had been hidden for so long. Rumors of canceled deals, panicked contracts, and hushed legal meetings filled the air. No one in Hollywood could ignore this storm now. Brad Pitt, once known only for his films and charm, had become the voice that cracked open the industry's darkest secrets. And in doing so, he had forced an entire city of stars to reckon with its silence. The trial was no longer just Diddy's problem. It was a reckoning for the whole world of fame and fortune. The judge issues a warning. As the courtroom settled after the chaos of Brad's revelations, the judge took control with a sharp warning. Raising her gavel, she reminded everyone, especially the media, that this was a court of law, not a stage for spectacle. She ordered strict silence from the audience and warned the press against distorting the truth for sensational headlines, but the damage was done. Outside the courtroom, the world was already ablaze with speculation and gossip. Inside, the judge's words hung heavy in the air. She glanced at the jury, reminding them to focus only on the evidence and ignore the media storm swirling around them. The defense team seized on this moment, arguing that Brad's testimony was only hearsay and that no hard proof had been shown. But the prosecution objected strongly, insisting that Brad's first-hand account was valid, credible, and devastating. The judge allowed Brad to continue, but with caution, her eyes sharp, her tone stern. This trial, she made clear, would not turn into a circus, no matter how many stars walked through the door. The warning quieted the room, but the tension remained. Everyone knew that the real drama was far from over. The truth, it seemed, had only begun to surface. The jury's doubts grow. As the trial moved forward, the jury's mood had visibly shifted. At the start, they had been neutral, perhaps even skeptical of the wild claims swirling around Diddy. But Brad Pitt's calm, precise testimony had changed everything. Now the jurors exchanged worried glances, their faces showing signs of doubt and discomfort. Could Diddy really have kept such dark secrets hidden for so long? The evidence was growing in their minds, piece by disturbing piece. Even when the defense tried to challenge Brad's words, the jury seemed unconvinced. They scribbled notes furiously, nodded at key moments, and frowned when the defense stumbled. Brad's credibility, built over years as a respected public figure, was impossible to ignore. His testimony wasn't dramatic or exaggerated. It was cold, quiet, and deadly in its simplicity. The jurors felt the weight of his words. The balance of the trial was tipping. Each passing moment seemed to push them closer to a verdict none of them had expected when the trial began. Diddy's chances of walking free were slipping away, and the jury knew it. Their expressions said it all. Doubt had turned to belief, and belief was quickly turning to judgment. Witnesses stepped forward. Brad Pitt's testimony had broken the dam. Suddenly, others were willing to speak. Rumors swirled that 2 former associates of Diddy were ready to take the stand, offering their own accounts of threats, shady deals, and moments of fear. The prosecution smiled quietly, sensing victory. The defense team looked pale, shaken by the news that more damaging voices were about to join Brad's. In the corridors outside the courtroom, whispers spread fast. These new witnesses could confirm everything Brad had claimed, and possibly more. Inside, the mood was tense. The jury glanced nervously at each other, aware they were about to hear more shocking confessions. Reporters held their breath, phones in hand, waiting for the next bombshell. The judge called for order, knowing that the trial was spiraling into deeper, darker territory. When the new witnesses entered, their faces serious and determined, the room went silent again. This was no longer about rumors or celebrity gossip. It was real, backed by more voices brave enough to speak the truth. The danger for Diddy was growing. What had begun as a defense built on fame and denial was falling apart. With every brave witness that stepped forward, the foundations of his empire shook harder. Hollywood and the world beyond could only watch in stunned Diddy's defense strikes back. Facing disaster, Diddy's defense team launched a last desperate attack. They accused Brad Pitt of seeking attention, of lying to destroy Diddy's reputation. The lead lawyer painted Brad as a bitter star with a secret grudge, spinning tales for revenge. But their words fell flat. Brad's quiet honesty and lack of personal gain made their argument seem thin. Worse, the jury remained unmoved, their doubt now hardened into suspicion. The defense brought out documents, emails, and supposed proof meant to clear Diddy's name, but they only raised more questions. Then they tried to discredit the new witnesses, suggesting they were being paid or threatened into testifying. But the prosecution pushed back hard, revealing background checks, phone records, and clear evidence of truthfulness. The judge listened carefully, allowing the battle to unfold, but even she seemed skeptical of the defense's claims. Outside the court, public opinion turned sharply. Diddy's defenders grew silent, while critics grew louder. Talk shows, news sites, and fans debated fiercely. Was Diddy finished? Could even his wealth and fame save him now? The defense had fired its last shots, but they had missed their mark. The walls were closing in fast. The truth, powerful and unstoppable, had broken free. Public turns against Diddy. As the trial raged on, the outside world responded fiercely. Social media platforms flooded with anger, shock, and betrayal. Longtime fans of Diddy, once loyal and proud, now questioned everything they believed. Hashtags like Diddy exposed and justice for victims trended worldwide. Commentators and influencers condemned the revelations. Even some of Diddy's friends in the entertainment industry posted cryptic messages, hinting that they too had long feared the truth but stayed silent. Concert promoters quietly canceled upcoming shows. Brands pulled their sponsorships. Diddy's business empire, once untouchable, began to crack. Stocks dropped, partnerships froze, and calls for boycotts grew louder. The damage was spreading beyond the courtroom into every corner of Diddy's life. Meanwhile, Brad Pitt was hailed as a hero. Fans praised his courage, calling him the man who dared to speak when others feared. News channels replayed his testimony endlessly, holding it up as a moment of truth in a world tired of lies and cover-ups. For Diddy, the world he once ruled now felt cold and hostile. The people who cheered him, who bought his music and lined up for his events, were turning away. The fall of an icon was underway, and no public relations team could stop it. Brad Pitt's testimony had started a storm that would not die down. The verdict approaches. As the final days of the trial arrived, tension gripped the courtroom. The prosecution summarized their case, repeating Brad Pitt's damning words and the other witnesses' chilling accounts. They spoke of fear, manipulation, power, abused in secret. They urged the jury to see the truth, to deliver justice not just for the witnesses, but for everyone deceived for years. The defense, looking weary and beaten, made their last plea, claiming Brad had lied, that no crime could be proven. But their words sounded hollow, unconvincing after weeks of overwhelming testimony. The jury retired to deliberate. Hours passed. Reporters camped outside the court. Fans worldwide waited for updates, refreshing their feeds. Would Diddy walk free? Or would this be the day his empire truly fell? Inside the jury room, the mood was grim and focused. Each juror weighed the mountain of evidence, the calm certainty of Brad Pitt's voice, the bravery of the witnesses who followed him. The fate of a music legend, and perhaps Hollywood itself, hung in the balance. As the court reconvened and the jury filed back in, silence fell. Cameras flashed, pens paused. The judge asked for the verdict. The moment the world waited for had arrived. The fall of an empire. The jury's verdict echoed in the silent courtroom. Guilty. A gasp rippled through the audience. Diddy sat frozen, eyes wide, unable to move. His lawyers slumped, defeated. The prosecution smiled in quiet triumph. Brad Pitt, sitting in the gallery, watched without expression, a man who had spoken his truth and changed history. The judge declared the sentence would follow in a later hearing, but the damage was done. Diddy's empire, his music, fashion, business deals, was shattered. News of the verdict exploded around the world. Fans wept, others cheered. Hollywood insiders whispered that the old era of silence and fear was over. A new day of truth and accountability had dawned. For Brad Pitt, this was more than a victory in court. It was a stand against the darkness he had seen too often in fame's shadow. He walked from the courthouse quietly, ignoring the flashing cameras, knowing the world would never forget what he had done. Diddy's legacy lay in ruins. The trial was over, but its impact would last forever. In homes, studios, and boardrooms, people understood. No one, not even the richest and most famous, could escape justice forever. The empire had fallen, and from its ashes, a new truth had risen. As the echoes of this dramatic trial fade from the courtroom, one truth remains impossible to ignore. The walls of celebrity power have been cracked forever. Brad Pitt's fearless decision to speak has rewritten the rules of silence in Hollywood, forcing the world to confront secrets long buried under fame and fortune. Diddy's empire, once built on success and charm, now lies in ruins, a warning to all who believe influence can shield the truth forever. What began as another high-profile trial has ended as a landmark moment in the fight for justice. And as the cameras dim and the headlines move on, the impact of this testimony will linger in every studio, every deal, every whispered conversation behind closed doors. The game has changed, and nothing in the world of fame will ever be the same again.